Roadshow. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me, holding it down back home in Sin City while I'm out here on the boardwalk in Atlantic City for CFFC 152. Cold Coffee, I left Las Vegas. It was 95 degrees outside. We set record temperatures every day for a week, I think, straight, of like the highest of highs.
Yep.
And I figure, boy, if it's 95 degrees in Las Vegas, the whole country got to be warm right now. Not the case. Not the case. I got out here and it was like 40 degrees out here. I was like, man, come on. It was a change of like 55 degrees like overnight between Philadelphia, Atlantic City, and Las Vegas. It was nuts, man. Is it still warm out there?
So did you? Oh, it is still hot. Did you bring your cool shorts or your warm shorts?
Yeah, no. I went with the mid-temperature shorts, and that was the problem. Is like I didn't look, and I was like, well, if it's 95 in Vegas, obviously I'd wear the cool shorts at that point.
Yes.
And I was like, now obviously I'm not going to wear the warm shorts if it's 95. It can't be that hot out there, but it may be somewhere. So I grabbed the wrong ones, and it's just yeah.
Well, I know I've seen you in shorts in snow, in a foot of snow in like Seoul, South Korea. So I think you're okay. I think you'll be all right.
I'm wearing no matter what.
Still it's still hot out here, man. It is. It's way too hot for this already. This I think it's just this whole side of the country is just roasting right now, and it's crazy because I was like the other day, like I went in my AC in my car. I was like, why am I having to put my AC on already? Like, this is ridiculous. And then it's not running as good. And I was like, normally I would think like, well, I have time before summer so I could zap the AC. But I'm like, it's already hot. I was like, I don't even want to go outside and work on the car. I was like, I think I'm just going to plan on being boiling at this point.
I'm saying normally I'm always preaching to everybody that, man, if you're going to come to Vegas, come in April or October. We haven't even got to April yet, and it's already 100 degrees. So I'm hoping this was just a little tease of summer, and it's going to drop back down, and we're going to get that nice month of April that we normally get because, it was warm back home.
I hope. But, man, it's just, I mean, it's a lot of those things that, even if this stuff does come, even barring outside of, there's always going to be the conspiracy. Is global warming a thing or whatever? Regardless of whatever, the ramifications of it coming this warm, more than us, just outside of us just bitching about it. Like even in Colorado and places like that, they didn't get the snowfalls that they needed, and that snowfall, that melting, is what helps fuel the Colorado River, which if people don't remember, helps fuel us out here, gives us all of our water that we help use, and then eventually part of that gets parsed out to California, out to Arizona and other places. So when Colorado doesn't get that snowpack like it normally does, and it's at like record lows, near or at record lows, like of all time, I think, of what the snow was. So I mean, there's definitely going to be some hurting later on in the summer. If we're already feeling it right now, I'm afraid of what it's going to be. We always joke about, what's going to happen to Vegas when there ain't no water, because Vegas just keeps expanding and it just keeps spreading out and getting more and more people, but we have less and less water. So it's one of those scary things. So, as much as we don't like to talk about the real things, we just keep it to fights and all that other stuff. It's a crazy time. So come out to Vegas while you can, while there's still water.
So I'm starting to, oh my gosh, that's so dire. So wait, I'm starting to read between the lines here, right? Like you've been making these multiple trips to Denver, and you've been kind of alluding to this budding relationship that you have going on in Denver, but in reality, that's just a cover for you to go upstream to our water source and inspect the snowpack to know what kind of health that we're going to have here with our water supply.
So we need somebody on the ground in Colorado keeping track of Vegas's water.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, that's enough from environmentalsuccessjunkie.com or whatever. We'll get to the mixed martial arts now. A lot going on. Obviously I haven't seen you since last weekend. Won't talk too much about the UFC London event. The UFC London event was not that bad. It was just kind of the featured fights that really left everything flat. But the undercard I thought was a lot of fun. So if you watched the whole card, I think you had a fun night. But the featured bouts, certainly nobody would argue that they didn't fall flat, but they did. But I guess I just want to get your real quick take, because we got a lot to talk about, but your real quick take on how you had the main event score, because there still seems to be controversy and discussion over how it's scored. And I'll be honest, I actually scored it for Movsar Evloev live. I gave him round 1, and then I gave him 3, 4, and 5. So even with the point deduction, I had him winning the fight. But even in that instance, I will say if you had it scored a draw, I have zero issues with that whatsoever. But I'm seeing people saying that Murphy should have won the fight, and I don't know. Where do you stand on it? Because I've watched it back, and I just don't get how you get Lerone Murphy winning that fight.
Yeah, at best I would have gave it a draw.
Yeah.
I was definitely thinking that probably it could have been a draw, but no, I thought Mozart was doing the better of some of the other rounds. I mean, I'll give all credit to Murphy did good, and I mean he was doing some damaging shots, and certainly seemed like he was in it the whole time. But I didn't think he won it. I mean, I thought if anything, even with and one, I was a little. I don't know. I agree that you need to get in there and you need to kind of really jump on things, and you need to kind of like if there's egregious fouls, there should be some points being taken away. But it was just kind of crazy that right after Mark Goddard's like, don't make me get involved in this, he takes a point and got involved in it, and I was just like, come on, Goddard. Like, I get it, it was the second time in a round, but if it was across the board that second time in a round points were being taken, then I would understand why a point was taken there. I thought it was a little. I thought that was a little bit strict, but right. I understand why people want to see points. But that round wouldn't have been. It wouldn't even been in the question if it wasn't for that point taken. I think people. I don't think people would even be thinking like, oh, it was a draw or Murphy could have got that round. So I don't know. I was a little. I get it. People need to, they need to start taking points away, but I thought it was a really quick point that I don't think is consistently done. So for that to do it, I felt like there was a little hometown love getting thrown in there. But I know that Goddard is a good ref, and I know that, a lot of people, whatever. So I'm trying not to put that on him, but every ref at times, does some questionable sort of shit, and I think he's a pretty good guy, but I was just a little, I'd have to go back and clearly watch the night to see if there were 2 fouls. I mean, yes, it was egregious, but it wasn't like he was thrown up in the corner or whatever doing something.
We've seen worse.
So I thought it was a little bit of a quick point. But outside of that, I would have thought at best a draw.
Yeah.
So when they said Movsar, I was like, okay, yeah. I was trying to give it credit, the benefit of the doubt. That Murphy got some rounds in there, but I mean I thought Evloev did what he did. I thought he could have been a little bit stronger, but I give credit to Murphy to kind of like shutting down what Movsar wanted to do, and he didn't have a great fight himself. But no, I wasn't upset about the way it ended by any means. So yeah, when they read it, that I was like, okay, cool, But if it would have been a draw, I'd have been like, okay, well.
100%.
There you go. So
I then went straight from there. I'm just going to give a quick shout out because we cover mixed martial arts, but the NCAA Wrestling Championships, man, working for the time that we did at CFFC Match Day made me a big fan of college wrestling, and I would just throw it out there to people. I'm not saying you got to keep up with college wrestling all the time. I'm not saying you got to be watching dual meet after dual meet and sign up for Flow Wrestling so you can watch everything across. I'm not saying you got to do that, but at least if you don't give college wrestling a chance, try to tune in for the wrestling championships, man. If you could do it, obviously you got a whole year before you have to put it on your calendar and worry about that. But it's a great event, man, and I really do enjoy watching it. Like those athletes are they're incredible, man. And I love watching it. And they're handing out belts now over there, and kind of embracing that. They do the big walk-ins.
Really?
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they're kind of embracing the connection to mixed martial arts. And dude, I'm telling you, man, like we know the UFC is looking for American athletes and American stars, man. I would love to see them get back involved in college wrestling because, man, these athletes are phenomenal. David Taylor, what his team's doing at Oklahoma State, obviously the dynasty at Penn State. I mean, there's some fantastic athletes, and I think if the UFC could support it again, I don't know, man. I just think there's such a connection there. But I think people should watch it regardless. It's a great event. I don't know if you caught any of it, but it really is a fun event.
No, I did catch up on like the results and stuff, and yeah, because of course Ohio State's usually always up in there.
Of course.
They had some upsets that they lost and some, but yeah, Penn State is just such an impressive team. So yeah, and kudos to Oklahoma State. I didn't realize how well they did until I went back and looked at some of the final results. But yeah, Oklahoma State crushed it,
Bro.
did a really good job. But Penn State, I mean, like they're incredible. They're it doesn't get much better in terms of what people consider a dynasty at this point. I mean, they're just so darn good. It's just ridiculous. But I know the main thing you watch is because you're just a big fan of singlets, and you're just, you're like, I just really love singlets, and what sport uses singlets better?
Like, oh, man.
I tried to get you to watch gymnastics. You were like, no, wrestling singlets are better,
People might not realize, they see me and they see me in the blue polo and the khaki shorts.
They don't realize what you got underneath.
Singlet, baby. Singlet underneath all day. Been a big singlet
guy. It
guy.
just keeps everything nice and close and just together.
Too funny, man. No, it was a great event.
That's good shit.
It is funny.
Wow, so that was a long day then. If you went from watching London to watching the NCAA wrestling, like that was a long day of sports for you.
They basically so I watched the main event with the volume down, which I think maybe why I scored it a little bit different, because I had the volume up on wrestling because I had my son watching it with me as well.
Yep.
So I don't know. Maybe that's why I scored the main event a little bit differently, because I didn't have the volume on. But it was a long day. But
so yeah. So you kind of caught the vibe that a lot of people were talking about too, about how listening to the commentary team, and you could definitely hear biases. I mean, I think that's any time. Definitely, it's in a particular space that a commentary member has is either from or whatever, and not that Bisping isn't guilty of doing that often, but I think a lot of guys have their favorite people. But yeah, I mean, I was seeing a lot of people sort of just saying like, man, I'm glad I turned the commentary off, or I'm glad I wasn't listening to this, because they felt like it was changing the way that they were structuring it. Even it came up on Spinning Back Click, Danny Segura was doing play-by-play, and he's like, I wasn't closely listening to the commentary too much because he had to look away and go and type a little bit. But sometimes when he did acknowledge, sometimes when I am typing, I have to kind of listen to what the commentaries team to tell me where things are sort of happening. And so when he even said, luckily I was able to look up, but when I was listening to the commentary team, I felt like it was skewing a different direction than kind of what I was seeing, and I was just like, okay, well,
so
I can't argue with that.
As somebody that does commentary as a big part of my job, obviously I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but I've been doing commentary for years and years and years. Of course, Paul Felder and Michael Bisping are doing it at a higher level than me, so I'm not trying to compare myself. But what I will say is that there are two things I think sometimes at play. Number one, if there's a crowd and a vocal crowd, and we talk about this with judges and stuff too, right? Like, I think judges can be swayed and not even mean to be swayed,
yes.
right? Like, just subconsciously, if the crowd is heavily in favor of one person, you know what I mean? Because, it's rousing when that one person does anything. It's flat when the other person does something. So I think they get impacted by that. The other one, though, too, I think this can happen to any of us, but on commentary or play-by-play when scoring, like, we all think that, like, hey, if Mozart takes him down, he's winning. But if he doesn't take him down, then that must mean Larone's winning. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a little bit of that. Of like, whoa, he didn't even try a takedown. Like, that's a Larone round right there if he couldn't even get him to the ground. You know what I mean? I think there's a little bit of that, too, more than just, like, the commentators are truly biased, or they're just calling it for one person, or they like somebody more than the other. I think it's more those other kind of factors. At least that's what I believe to be true.
Yeah, and I wonder sometimes too, some of that stuff, some of that unconscious bias stuff that maybe even does come out, whether a commentator means to do it or not. Like sometimes if, like you said, Mozart wasn't getting it down, they might start skewing like, oh, here's Murphy shutting down yet again another takedown, and look at those hands or whatever. But I mean, it was definitely, there was a couple times where I was just like, whatever. But I think sometimes I guess you get so used to it, you just stop tuning it out. But there was a couple points, I didn't feel like it was egregious, but the fact that I was hearing it more from other people, I was like, okay, maybe I just tuned it out, and I'm good at like tuning out certain things, and it didn't affect me. But again, they could be somebody that probably had some skin in the game and maybe was betting on Mozart, and you hate it when somebody's all like, guys, stop talking about? Because I felt that too, especially like in staff picks. When I'm like my guys against their guy, I'm like, stop fucking. I'm like, what are you watching? No, it's this, So I'm like, I know my own biases come. So a lot of times some of the criticism maybe comes because somebody is leaning or skewing a particular way for their own reason. And if you don't agree with it, they're going to assume everything you're saying is not fair and it's biased or whatever. So maybe it was more unfair criticism, but I know people have said it about him in the past, and I've kind of judged it a little bit like that in the past, where I felt like Bisping's definitely skewed towards the London fighters and English fighters or fighters from the European area, at times. But I didn't think it was anything too crazy in this particular one because, I was pretty enthralled with the fight, wondering, if we were going to get to see a finish, how it was sort of going, and then again thinking like, wow, how was that point deduction going to change the whole nature of this fight? Like, is this really gonna swing things? But it was pretty crazy. Like right after that point deduction, how Mozart, he was like, I got to make sure I win this round, because he came out swinging after that, and I was like, holy cow, where has this guy been? Like, bro, he should have took a point right from round one, and then maybe we'd see a different fight. But it was good. And even how that fight played out, I don't think that even got the most criticism out of the night. I think the MVP fight is the fight that a lot of people were pointing at and were just like, okay, wow, that was a real stinker. That wasn't, what we were expecting. But there were I thought there were a lot of decent, fun fights on the fight. And again, we love fights. You can give me a stinker of a fight, and I'd still rather watch a stinker of a fight than put up the news or watch something else.
Well,
I'd rather watch that any time of the day. Bring it on.
That's for
even a bad
right
fight's still a fight. It's kind of like, it's funny when people are like, I was just gonna be me, and everybody's like, you can see a pair of titties, whether they're good titties or bad titties, they're still titties, and you still want to look at them. And it's the same way with fights. I'd rather watch a fight. A bad fight rather than no fights or whatever.
I don't know if it's.
I'm sure there are other things I could have made the analogy, but titties is the one that just came to mind.
Well, the other ones that come to my mind aren't great for public consumption either, but they're all very true, though. They're all very true. All right, listen. Listen. You kind of hit on something there that I want to talk about. Like, we love fights, right? Like, that's just me. We're hardcore junkies. We love to see the action, right? I wanted to get your take on this because I'm kind of interested. So obviously, the big stories this week were MVP, of course, the full card coming out. And by the way, I'm just applause right now on that card from MVP, man. They did good, man. The match, I don't know if it's Nikisa himself or they've hired somebody or it's a panel or a committee. I don't actually know who handles their matchmaking, but I think they did a brilliant job with that card of basically like pulling together a little bit of something. Obviously all the big name, the old school, the entertainment, but then, getting guys like Muhammad Makayev, getting guys like Saladin Parnasse. Those are legitimate, hardcore, appealing names. So I think they did a great job with it. But so that was, big stories, obviously, and kudos, much deserved. That thing is going to do numbers on Netflix. I can't wait for it, and I know you're going to be there, so you're going to have a great time.
Yep.
But the other big discussion was the stuff, Conor McGregor, potentially Jorge Masvidal coming back. I have not heard that that's a completely done deal by any stretch of the imagination, but it seems to be the way everybody is journeying or leaning or having. And I'm just kind of curious to see what everybody's reaction is going to be because, Conor McGregor versus Jorge Masvidal right now doesn't have much impact at all on championship pictures, titles, rankings, like any of that stretch, right? But as far as just like fun names and great press conferences and amazing build-up, like I love it. Like I think that'd be a blast. If that's the direction everybody goes and it comes together, I think it would be fun. But what I'm anxious to see is what everybody's reaction is because I'm kind of wondering if this fight gets done, if the same people that have been just singing the praises of MVP and be like, oh my God, they're putting on an amazing event, if they come back and go like, this is what you're bringing Conor McGregor back for, is to face Jorge Masvidal? Like, what are we doing here, guys? What are we even doing? Because if you do that, you are a hypocrite. I think if you're a fan of all the stuff the MVP is doing, if the UFC decides to go in the Conor Jorge route, I think you got to be really happy about it and enjoy it because that's a fun fight.
It is a fun fight. Yeah, I mean that would be absolutely hypocritical if they're just at that point. I mean, you either want to see Conor come back or you don't. And I think they're going to be pretty happy. I think most of the people understand that it's all that fun fight week stuff, and I think a fight week stuff with like a Jorge, like that fight week would be absolutely bonkers. Just some of the shit that could come out of both sides. In the past, Conor's, obviously when he gets in a fight week and he's in full fight week swing, I mean, like when he's on a roll and he's prime Conor, like some of the stuff that comes out is just, it's funny, it's ingenuine. I mean, it's just ingenious. Like it's just some of the stuff you're like, where the hell did he come up with that one? I mean, there were some dingers through there. I mean, Red Panty Night. I mean, all this other stuff that just like was just so amazing. That'd be so cool because if we can get one of those again, I mean, it'd be really fun. I think that's what we miss the most. Nobody misses, some of the cheap, angry trash talk that just kind of fell flat. But man, like hearing what he could come up with and then hearing if George is in the good spirits and throwing it back, I think would be outrageous. And you either want to see that or you don't want to see it. And wherever it happens, you can't say that, if it came through, MVP and it's some crazy match and then you don't like the fact that, Jorge, like there's no legitimate matchup within the active division that makes sense for Conor. Because, like, if you give him up against...
Masvidal. You know what I mean? Like,
or Masvidal.
So that's
what... Yeah, like, they've been away from the game. Like, it doesn't make any freaking sense to try to throw him up there and try to make it towards a boat or try to take it... Any active fighter, of course, wants to fight Conor because they know it's a huge payday. Things maybe now are probably not the same because there are no pay-per-view points. There are no whatever sort of thing. So if you got the contract now, it's not like they're going to change the contract for you because you got a Conor fight. Like... I doubt that they're going to, because contract's already done. Dan would just say, hey, it's out of my hand. Your contract's already whatever. Maybe I'll throw you a little discretionary money and something, maybe whatever. But things aren't going to change, and it doesn't make sense for the division. Like as much legitimacy as we'd like to see in the division, the last thing you want to do is throw a monkey wrench the size of Conor McGregor and just throw things off for one bout. Like. Bring him in, let him do these circus sideshow shit, let him make a ton of money, let MVP or anybody just throw it away and just have a lot of fun. But I think at the end of the day, people just want to see him entertain one more time.
Agreed.
And regardless of whoever it's at, whoever it's with and wherever it's at, he had talked about doing BKFC at one time and talk about this and talk about that. People just want to see him fight while he still can before it just becomes ridiculous. The last thing you want to do is have this sort of, long-running, I'm coming back, I'm going to fight this, go for another 5 or 6 or 7 years, and then he's just degraded his body doing whatever. I mean, it'd be one thing if Conor decided, I'm just going to follow Jesus, I'm clean living at this point, I'm just training, he gets his body in complete, just pristine shape, and he's got cardio for days, then maybe we could start getting him some fights and see where he is. But at this point now, it's like Ronda. Just get in, get out. Get in, get your money, and go back to doing whatever, And just I'm just tired of all these, like, oh, he's coming back. He's going to come back for this. We said before we thought that the White House would be the card that brought him back. He didn't get on the White House card. And so outside of that, I think we pretty much were just at the point where I don't think it's going to happen. But if this is the kind of fight that can get it to happen, and if the money's whatever, of course I'd love to see Conor fight again because we've had some incredible memories over the years covering his fights. But, nobody, I'm just tired of all the negative. I'd rather see his name in the headlines for an actual fight, regardless of who it is, rather than Conor being accused of this, Conor guilty of this, Conor's done this, Conor's done that. He's a married man. He's got kids now. You want him to kind of just stay on the up and up and fight and do the thing that got you to where you are. And I don't care who it's against, but if it's against Jorge, I mean, that's incredible because who doesn't love Jorge? I'd love to see him get a bag and just fucking do whatever, like, I mean, even Jorge over the years, he's grown to become one of the, just such a beloved dude that even on days where he, was kind of just pissed off and did whatever, he still put on great interviews and people still love seeing him and people absolutely adore the dude. So yeah, if he could go out and get paid, and then go back and just keep promoting and do his thing, and that'd be even better because he's actually trying to change fighters' lives, and he's trying to put on productions and put on fights and get guys paid. If he can have more seed money that he can keep doing what he's doing, that's all better for people in the future, term as well. This is a guy that's legit paying it forward and trying to take care of like the next generation and of fighters and stuff. So yeah, I mean, if he could get a big fight and get some money and enable himself to kind of just keep relevant in the space and also kind of keep doing his thing, I mean, I think it would be great. But man, I would love that fight. I would love that fight probably a lot more than any other Conor matchup that's out there. And
Agreed.
I
think it'd be
but
a lot
I did
of fun.
think the MVP card was pretty sick, man.
They did a good job, man.
Some good names that I was a little surprised. Like, and then you mentioned like the Mokaev. I thought that was good. I mean, but to get Moraes on the opposite side is pretty banger, dude.
Yep.
And, Larkin, Jackson, pretty good. I didn't know too much. I'd have to go back and look at some of the other ones up. Of some of the other fighters, of course they're gonna put Diaz's boy.
Of course, Chris Avila. Yeah, he's always gonna. Anytime Diaz, anytime Diaz on the card, Avila's getting a fight too.
But no, it's a good card. But yeah, I mean, so kudos to what MVP's doing again. I know we talked about this one before. Like, what do you do after this? Like, who didn't they use on this card that they can use again? But it's a pretty solid card. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm glad I'm going to be there. But yeah, I mean, both. It's some crazy possibilities, but man, some fun fights about to happen.
No doubt, man. I'm looking forward to it. Still got a little bit of time till then, but I'm looking forward to that fight for sure. All right, listen, we'll talk about UFC Seattle, of course. I do want to point out as well that the PFL does have an event on the same on Saturday night. It runs mostly after the UFC, so if you're down for a long day, if you're down for a ton of MMA, you can get them both on Saturday. I think the prelims of the PFL card is going to overlap the main card of the UFC, so depending on how you want to go about it, you could probably watch like the full UFC event and then watch the main card of PFL afterwards, or go back and watch it afterwards, whatever. But a pretty good effort, to be honest with you, from the PFL. Johnny Eblen and Brian Battle in the main event. Interesting matchup. You wouldn't see necessarily Brian Battle coming in and getting that high ranked opponent right away, but man, he's going into the deep end right away. So they're making use of their free agent, Dalton Rosta versus Impa Kasanganay. That's a good fight as well, man.
That's a good fight.
Ariane Lipski da Silva versus Sumiko Onaba. I know you're excited about that one. Alexi Pergande and Julio Arce. That looks like
that's a good fight.
That's a really good fight right there. So
yep,
a little bit fun. Robert Wiley, I'll give the CFFC love a shout out there with Robert Wiley. Robert Wiley is kind of gave me a funny moment because I don't always do the post fight interviews, but I was doing post fight interviews on that card the last time he fought for us, and he won. And it was like, well, what do you want next? And he was like, I want to go back to the PFL. I'm like, well, we are on UFC Fight Pass, so maybe maybe the UFC's not the worst place to go ever. And he's like, no, not interested. He was like, want the PFL. I was like, okay.
There you go.
But he got it, and he's gotten some wins, so I'm happy for him, man. So great for Robert Wiley. And
that's funny.
Yeah.
You're like, did you not get the cue cards? Everybody sasays UFC.
Bro, we're not on PFL Fight Pass, okay? We're on UFC Fight Pass. And they are the ones giving us a licensing fee for our content here, so maybe we could give them a little shout out. And he was like, nope, PFL or bust. I'm like, all right, well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, it paid off.
It paid off, though. He got it done. I'm glad to see him get wins. He's really good over there. So anyway, I did want to give a shout out to that, and I also want to give a shout out because I saw, I think John Martin. I believe I was traveling, but I think he was on Ariel Helwani's show where he was talking about. Hey, we're kind of looking at maybe some branding change and blah, 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 blah. And I saw a lot of people on social media that were like, why not just use Bellator? Well, I can tell you, I've talked to multiple people, and I've been hearing it for the last couple of weeks, actually, that there is a real play to put the Bellator name back in play. So they may.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I had heard it before he came out and gave that interview. And, obviously some people that I trust, and then for him to come out and say it publicly, it sounds like maybe that's the direction they might go. And
like changing PFL to Bellator, or just doing some Bellator names?
No, switching to
or
Bellator
events.
I think that the feeling being that, maybe they feel like there's more brand value and faith and trust in the Bellator brand than there is the PFL brand.
Yeah.
And so that maybe it's worth it to go back to. Now, again, I heard it was a discussion point, and there was a lot of people leaning in that direction. I haven't heard that they've committed and that they're pulling the trigger, and that's what they're going. But it was funny because when he said that, I saw a lot of people kind of jump on social media and be like, why not use Bellator? I'm like, well, that probably kind of speaks to exactly the point that I was hearing behind the scenes, is they were thinking maybe that name is actually worth more, and we're better off just cutting bait with the PFL and calling it Bellator. So, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Or maybe
that is interesting.
Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe maybe you maybe you still do the international leagues and you call them PFL to get to Bellator. Maybe you just get rid of it entirely. I don't know. I don't know what the play would be.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, and there is something to it. I mean, when you say that, I mean, like, especially when you think of just the history of Bellator and what it was, doing and just the strength of the name. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you think like in just SEO terms, which nobody does, but I mean, like the strength of that name as opposed to just saying PFL.
Yep.
Nobody even says Professional Fighters League. Like, nobody even says the full name. They just say PFL, but Bellator, they always say Bellator.
Yep.
Bellator. There is no shortening of that. There is no whatever. Like I feel like the PFL just kind of gets thrown away. People just say it and it doesn't stick as much as like the Bellator. So I mean that'd be interesting. I mean, and it's not something uncommon for businesses to do, but it is a little interesting in the terms of a sports organization that's out there throwing their name around every week on banners and posters and on all the other stuff to immediately shift it. You kind of, I'm sure they probably thought about it at one point when the two sort of became one. To which one? And I'm sure the people at the time were like, "No, we're PFL, baby. We just fought off all the Bellator champions and merged it, and now for new people to come back in with fresh eyes and say, was that really the right decision?" Well,
So there you go. That's what I think the valuable thing is. Like, John Martin's coming in. He's not married to anything, right? Like, and I get that. Yep. Like, you look at from like a Don Davis perspective, like, or any of that regime. It was like, bro, we started this company from nothing. We scratched and we clawed and we created our little space and we burned the midnight oil and in all these hours. And look, we got to this position where we can absorb this other brand. And now you want me to change it and call it Bellator? Like, no, I have pride. I built this. We did this. No, this is our company. But John Martin's coming in and going, I wasn't here for all that. Like, I'm just trying to make sure that we succeed and that we survive and that we move forward.
Yep.
And if you do that, maybe it just makes more sense to be like, well, there's a lot of negative connotation around PFL. There's some things that happened and blah, blah, blah. And maybe – but I will say this, the funny thing is, so I actually think it is probably a pretty good idea. And it is funny, like you say, from an SEO perspective, like they own the word Bellator, bro. Like you're not getting anything else other, you search Bellator, you're not getting some random stuff that I didn't expect to get. But I will say it is pretty funny because, obviously I spent many, many years from the very beginning of the Bellator launch working for MMA Junkie and privy to all of our web traffic stats and all those things. And I love that there's so many people coming out and talking about, yeah, you should go with Bellator. I love Bellator. Bellator was great. Bro, the ratings weren't like that much better, or like the web traffic. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny how in retrospect, like everything's like, yeah, man, back in the day, Bellator was amazing. Like, bro, you weren't watching Bellator either. Don't lie to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That part kind of cracked me up a little bit. Everybody's like, yeah, you went away from the icon that was Bellator. Like, hey, why don't you run me off the lineage of the Bellator welterweight title, dude? Why don't you run that? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like come on, man. So, but I do think anyway. I think it's a good. I actually do think it's a good idea.
That would be interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, like it happens all the time. I mean, like, you brought up, Junkie and USA Today. We just, Gannett, which was the parent company just recently, which the Gannett name is a huge name, and decided to rebrand and called itself USA Today Co. or whatever. Realized that, what's the stronger of the names and like what's whatever. So they just did a huge rebrand. And this is the bigger named company. Well, Gannett going with, obviously,
makes sense.
Always remembered USA Today as opposed to Gannett. But even then, you figure something that's so established as Gannett, as was because it's such a parent company, the other one chose one of the properties, the big one of the properties, and then rebranded as that. And it's like it happens all the time. This wouldn't be something completely out of
absolutely
norm for big businesses at this point.
And by the way, for USA Today, that's a smart brand. Like when people used to talk to me about, or even now when people talk to me about, oh, what was your time like at Junkie, or how did it go, and I always talk to them. Well, we started as a small independent website. I was the first employee they hired after the initial 3 that started it. We built it up in 2011. We sold to Gannett, and I would immediately go, the parent company of USA Today. You know what I mean? Because it's like people, unless you're in the industry, you don't know what Gannett is, and now
you don't know.
Yeah, now you know what USA
Today. People
are
like, "What's Gannett?" Oh, USA Today. Well, you work for Gannett. What's Gannett? USA Today. Oh, okay, yeah.
So smart rebrand on their
So
part.
yeah, I mean, but that would be interesting. That would be something. I mean, I guess I'm one of the ones too. I mean, I guess we saw PFL get started as well, but I mean, like Bellator, there's a lot of years of history, and maybe we're nostalgic too. When we have those rose-colored glasses, it would be pretty cool to see the name come back after we just saw it get sort of put away. It would be cool to kind of see it come back.
And here's the thing that if you bring it back is interesting. So if you bring it back and you make sure that the fighting surface, the cage, all looks very similar. Now all your past library becomes more like, is the Bellator library is it very useful to the PFL? Like, not really, right? Like, it's a whole different company. Yep. The product looks different.
Branding.
Totally different branding, right? Mm-hmm. But now that library, like if you're doing like highlight stuff, or like the PFL can't do an opening highlight like their Baba O'Reilly video. They can't do their Baba O'Reilly video full of Bellator footage. You know what I mean? You can't be like, well, we're the same company. I mean, we absorbed together, so it just doesn't work, right? You know what I mean? So now you can go back and you can use all those names that have gone through and all that content. You can use that in your highlights. You can use that in best of stuff and whatever else. So for that reason, I think there's a lot of really smart reasons to use it.
Wow. Now I want it to happen.
Yeah.
I've convinced myself. I want it to happen now.
now
I won't be happy till it happens.
I just need everybody that says that they love the idea. You got to watch it this time. You got to watch it this time.
You got to watch it.
You got to watch it. All right, UFC Seattle is this weekend. I'll definitely be watching that. Great, fun little card there. This main event, obviously, I've got some CFFC bias in there. But even if I take the CFFC bias out of it, and my love for Joe Pyfer, and who isn't a fan of Israel Adesanya, and I just stylistically I love this fight because not only is it like the crossroads of the timing of their careers, you know what I mean? Like can the old GOAT, hang on and stop this upcoming contender and all that. That storyline is fun, but also just the way it comes together, right? Like Pyfer can absolutely knock your block off, and he's got good wrestling and grappling and that sort of thing too. But if Izzy can get him to bite on some feints, if he can use his footwork, if he can stay off the cage and stay to the center, like there's nobody that's a better user of space and master of distance than Izzy Adesanya, and he could absolutely stick and move and touch Pyfer up and cut down the calf, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just from a stylistic perspective, I love this fight. I don't have to give an official pick. I would lean Joe Pyfer, to be honest. I think Joe Pyfer can win this fight, but I think Joe Pyfer also has to be very, very aggressive, very, very aware, and very, very just no distractions, no mis-executions, because if so, Adesanya will capitalize. And Adesanya has, I have been able to watch a little bit of the media days and the interviews and stuff that are out there in between working out here in Atlantic City, and Izzy does seem focused, happy, content, and that's a dangerous man in there. So I love this main event. What did you roll with your pick?
Might not surprise you, but I kind of followed your lead.
Yeah.
I went Pyfer, and that's no slight to Izzy. I think most people on our staff went Izzy. I agree. He's saying all the right things. He looks completely happy. I think the time away did look great for him. He looks in good shape. And I could be wrong. I mean, my picks have started shit this year, but I think Pyfer does have the power. I think you kind of put it too. I mean, if he kind of fights like Strickland, and just kind of moves
Yes.
forward and doesn't get caught up in the feints, doesn't get caught up in a lot of the style bending, a lot of the, when Izzy goes out there and he's doing a lot of his thing, I think a lot of these guys can kind of get starstruck, but I think since so much time has sort of went away and those last, 3 losses, I think it's kind of made them more human. So I don't think guys get caught up as much in a lot of the movements and aren't as afraid to move forward. But that being said, it doesn't mean that you could just walk into Izzy and don't give him respect for his power, and let alone what he can, kind of damage he could do, because you're watching his hands and he can throw a kick out of nowhere and catch you upside your head, and then the fight's over.
Yep.
But I think if Pyfer just kind of moves forward and, he does have that wrestling base, not that a lot of people are privy to kind of take Izzy down. I mean, like, Izzy has kind of, good takedown defense as well, and most of his fights that he's losing, he's losing on the feet, so the guys are either catching him with something. And I think, I don't want to say Izzy's chin isn't the same, but we've seen him get finished, and I think Joe's got definitely the power to do so. He's just got to just stay in his own head, don't get caught up in the brevity of this fight, fighting a former champ, and just stay focused. And I think he's got it. I think he's got what he needs to do to get it done. But again, if Izzy goes out there and he has vintage Izzy and he's throwing everything and he's throwing feints and Joe's biting on everything, it could be a bad day for him, because if he gets caught up in the lights, and it's one thing to say you're ready for this big fight and you say that you're ready to fight the style bender, but if he goes out there and he's doing his thing and he gets caught up in it and gets out of his head and it gets out of his game plan, Izzy can make a bad night for him.
Yep.
But I think Joe's shown that he can, stay focused and do what he needs to do. I think he's learned some lessons from the losses, and so I think but who knows? I mean, my picks have been absolute dog shit this year, so don't put money. But I mean, I would think if you're looking for a good upset bid, I think Pyfer can get it done. But most people on the staff do not agree with me. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 other people I think I've seen on the staff that are leaning Pyfer. Most people are going Adesanya, but I get it. Yeah. And especially if you look at how he looks this week, he looks great. He looks like he's in good shape and he's saying all the right things. But I feel like the last couple of times we've seen him in the fight weeks, he's been looking and sounding good those fight weeks as well. I mean, like, I thought he looked in good spirits those ones. So who knows? I mean, a lot of times when we see fighters come in with the current, three losses, a lot of people think that they're fighting with extra stress. They're fighting with their job on the line. And I don't think Izzy's that. Izzy, I think, has his, the guys that he's lost to. I mean, he's losing championship fights. But I think he doesn't carry the pressure of, like, past fights like other guys do. I think he's actually able to kind of put those fights away, and that's the past, and he moves on. I don't think that holds him back like other fighters do. So while some might say he's coming in with extra pressure, I mean, I think he's got, whatever little pressure he puts on himself that he wants to go out there and perform. But I don't think he's going to have any of the lingering doubts that other fighters might have coming in with the losses that some, like, he's not worried about his job should he take a loss like other guys are. I mean, it's still Adesanya. He still brings eyeballs.
His
his
bank account is swole. His legacy is secure. You know what I mean? That's it. He's good, man. He's out there doing it because he enjoys it. It's funny, though, as you were talking about it, the legendary Ray Longo's advice to Chris Weidman is what kind of was echoing through my head. Like, I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Because it's like, that to me is the biggest thing. Like, if Pyfer is that bull in the china shop pushing for, you know what I mean? Just like I don't care. I think he can cause problems. But if he's like setting up at range and he's like biting on those feints and he gets frozen, and as you said, he's looking at the hands because Adesanya always fights with that city kickboxing. They like that kind of extended jab already to where the jab's faster there, and then they feint. Anyway, he just can't bite on any of it. And if he doesn't, if he gets snake charmed, like you said, if the style bending, then it's going to be a problem. So I'm excited. I love the fight.
He can't let it become like a kickboxing match because he's going to lose a kickboxing fight against Izzy. He can't let this become a kickboxing fight.
Agreed.
And Izzy's got a way of getting these guys to let him, because they think like, oh, well, I got this. I can kickbox. It's like, bro, stop. Like, don't go there.
Don't do that.
That didn't work for Pahea when he decided to try to make it that too. I mean, so
yeah.
It'd be interesting.
I'm
it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good fight.
I'm looking forward to. Obviously, I won't be there, but I'm flying home, and I look forward to watching that one on TV. Just real quick, I did want to mention, obviously, Michael Chiesa's retirement fight. Michael Chiesa, has become a good friend over the years. Actually, he's starting to call fights for us for CFFC. He took the first quarter off so we could focus on this, but I love working with him here. Actually, him and I, we commentated a fight together in Italy. It was the first time he had ever done commentary, you know what I mean? So we got to do that. I got to interview him on The Ultimate Fighter after the unfortunate passing of his father. And so we've had a lot of experiences together over the years, so I'm very happy for him. I kind of hate that it has to be against Nico Price because I absolutely love Nico Price, and I respect Nico for stepping in on short notice. But anyway, so it'd be excited. I'm tuned in for that. But I will say, so I knew obviously, was tuned in for the whole Michael Chiesa retirement fight. Him and I were talking about his schedule and all that. So obviously knew about that. But I didn't realize until this week, if I'm being honest with you, that Terrence McKinney is on this card too. And I'm sure a lot of people, if you haven't seen it before, have seen it this week. If you haven't, go to Terrence McKinney's social media because he's posted the picture before, but he posted it again this week, and I think it's the greatest. Is a beardless, much younger, shaggy-haired Michael Chiesa and a teenage Terrence McKinney because Michael Chiesa coached Terrence McKinney in wrestling in high school, and now here they are. Years later, Chiesa's retirement fight, Terrence McKinney's on the card too, and so I didn't realize that was the case. That's a beautiful story, man. Like I love
it's
stuff
incredible.
like that. It's amazing.
Incredible. I saw that tweet and I was like, how can you not get like the feels? Like I would literally I couldn't smile big enough. Yep. I was so overjoyed seeing that picture and what it means to those guys and just having it be it can't get any better. I mean, like it was such a respectful tweet, but also just one of those things that I think every kid, like, who wouldn't, want that? Like, he had a dream. He had a coach that eventually started living his dream, and he was able to fulfill a dream, and now he's able to kind of partake on that guy's retirement fight, and it was just, I don't know. I'm
so
like,
cool.
It was moving.
Yep.
I was looking at it, and I was like, I couldn't love this picture anymore. I thought it was absolutely just so amazing.
Yep.
So amazing. I'm so happy that I don't know. Very often, or not very often, do you see something like so wholesome and just like good and just like, especially in this space. And I was just like, I love that picture. And I mean, Terrence is such a fun fighter and he's always fun talking, and just to see that and see the young faces, it's incredible. I mean, it was just incredible. You got to go to his Twitter to see it. And I mean, it's just, boy, yeah, I was. Yes, I was. He still had the hair starting to go a little bit. He was still had this sort of like, I wouldn't call it a mullet, but I mean, it was definitely like it was definitely party in the back, and but yeah, the beardless face, man, and just
it was mullet. He
looked like a kid. They both look like kids, man. It was just, it's incredible, man. It was incredible. What a cool picture, man.
Super cool, man. I love it. It's almost as cool as a 19-year-old John Morgan and 20-year-old Vitor Belfort or whatever back in the day. Like, all right, listen.
Oh, that story.
Well, we've had an adventure together over the years.
That certainly had some ups and downs over the years. That's man, fun.
He's a good dude. I like Vitor a lot. All right, listen. So tomorrow night, Friday night. So that's all Saturday. Tomorrow night, Friday night is CFFC 152. The legendary Josh the Punk Thompson is making his debut on the CFFC mic. It's the first time I've ever worked with him over the years. It's funny. We had our production meeting earlier this week, and I was kind of introducing Josh to the team and saying that that I have a feeling we'll gel together very quickly, even though we've never worked together because we've known each other for 20 years or whatever. And and Josh was kind of like, he's like, I wasn't always the nicest to John over the years when he would when he would ask me some things that I didn't feel like answering, and it was pretty funny. But I'm looking forward to it, man. He's become obviously a great fighter, and I think he's become a great analyst as well. And man, I'm excited to work with him tomorrow night. So make sure everybody tunes in to UFC Fight Pass for that. Madden Johnstone-Thomas is actually here to serve as a reporter as well. She's a UFC employee that is coming out to get some experience with us as well. So a robust broadcast and some really good fights. Nick Galante and Austin Clayton in the main event. Vacant middleweight title is on the line. Nick Galante, if you've seen CFFC, you know him. He's a New Jersey guy. Dante Rivera, BJJ guy. He was our next gen champion when he was an amateur. Came out and he lost. It was his third pro. He's 2-0. He lost his third pro fight, and kind of a disappointing result. But since then, I mean, something snapped within him, and he has had nothing but finishes, like 4 straight finishes in a row, and now he's fighting for the middleweight title against an undefeated Austin Clayton, who fought for us once before as a welterweight. But was struggling to get fights. He's a really, really talented athlete, and he was struggling to get fights, and he was like, man, staying at welterweight was just too hard. So he's making the move to middleweight and fighting for the title right away. So that's our main event. Great main event. Co-main event's interesting. Richie Lewis, standout New Jersey native, Rutgers wrestler. He was an under-23 world team member. Great wrestler. 7-1 record, trying to get into the UFC against Nick Fiore, who's this is crazy. He's 10-2. And his only 2 losses are in the UFC. So he got to the UFC, he suffered 2 losses, and he got released. And he's had like 4 wins, I believe, since he left the UFC. So he's never lost outside the UFC. And now he's going against Richie Lewis, trying to get back into the UFC. So big main and co-main. Max Metzger and Elvin Romero, 2 really talented lightweights. Max Metzger undefeated at 5-0. Elvin Romero 4-1. His only loss was to Levin Khabibulov last time out. Levin Khabibulov, if you haven't seen him fight, he is a scary, scary dude. And I love this about Elvin Romero. He fought an undefeated dude last time, scary dude. He lost, comes back, and we offer him another undefeated dude. And he's like, yeah, all right, let's go. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, to just be like, sure, whatever. You know, some people might be like, I'm coming off that setback. I was kind of looking for more of a layup, to get back in the win column. He was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. I'm just like, love that. Strawweights, really like the strawweight fight too. Paige Wilcox versus Rosalani Ike. Rosalani is making her pro debut. I called some of her fights as an amateur in Tough Enough, actually, and I was telling our team, I was really impressed with what I saw. I'd love to see her come fight for us. She's out of the MMA lab. She's making her pro debut. She's facing Paige Wilcox, who Paige Wilcox came in as an underdog last time and submitted Carly Jo Thomas, who was on quite a run. So she's facing another formidable opponent. Paige looked really good last time, so that's fantastic. And Christian Bobby, he's a veteran of the CFFC. He's getting his first main card slot against Cody McClanahan, who's undefeated, coming in from Spokane, Washington. So great fight there. And the main card kicks off with Jerry Leshy versus Safar Akhmadov. That should be a fun flyweight fight. It was funny. They were doing face-offs today, and Safar doesn't speak a lot of English. He's originally from Russia. He's moved to New York. But Jerry was talking to him, and then it was funny because he's like, what, you don't speak English? And his translator was like, or his coach was like, no, he doesn't really speak that much, but I can translate for him. So it was kind of funny. Like,
I saw that. I was like, what's going on?
It was kind of funny. So anyway, that's all.
Which fight kicks off the main card?
We moved it around a little bit from, I think, what we have online. We had to make some adjustments. So the one,
I was going to check because when you said the one, I was like, Tapology needs to update their thing. I was like, it might just be a little. The order might just be slightly different.
So I can tell you too with Tapology, like I help maintain our Tapology page, and with Tapology, they give you some controls as a promoter, but not all the controls as a promoter. So like you can label something a main event, you can label something a co-main event, you can label something main card, you can label something preliminary card. But once you label it main card or preliminary card, you can't move it around within there. You can't like drag and drop or order it or anything like that. So sometimes the ordering gets a little off on cards. So anyway.
Okay. But is the Wilcox fight the part of the main card?
It is.
It is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Paige Wilcox and Rosalina could be there. So anyway, 6 fights. So anyway, just want a little preview there, a little quick preview. So tune in. Hopefully you guys all enjoy it on Friday night, and then we'll be home on Saturday for PFL and UFC. So I have got to run to a dinner now. We're just a few minutes short, but we got a big team dinner, team meeting. So
yes,
got to squeeze that in. Always busy, always things to do, but appreciate you squeezing me into your busy day as well, Cold Coffee and.
It's so busy. All
right, lots of MMA. Hopefully everybody tunes into UFC Fight Pass. I certainly would appreciate it. Either way, thanks for listening.